When a company stops growing, it's usually a sign of a stagnant team, and identifying that is probably the most uncomfortable thing we do. Helping our clients identify who they need to fire. If a company is flatlining, either the owner is the bad apple, or there's people actively holding them back from growth in their current organization. To someone who says, I don't have the budget for something, I would say, suck it up. You don't ever have the money. There's a reason that over 80% of millionaires are self-made. Making the money that you want to make, get more skilled, or sell yourself better.
It's awesome to have you here, man. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, man? What do you do and who do you do it for? And what do you love about what you do?
Yeah, man. So we get to transform law firm owners' lives through our industry transformation model that we built through SMB Team, which is my company. So we are one of the only companies, the only company I've ever heard of that's actually merged coaching with digital marketing agency services, with fractional CFO services, with virtual assistant services, all under one umbrella. So we can actually answer all of your inbound phone calls, generate leads for you, and help you scale your business all under one umbrella, while helping you manage your financials. So it's a very interesting ecosystem that we built, and happy to break it down today.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's eclectic, right? It's usually you got to piece it together piece by piece, bit by bit, try to get this whole cohesive union happening with these different parts, but you've managed to put it together in one unit. What gave you that idea, man? Were you struggling with exactly what I just said, put it all together piece by piece, and you realized, hey, other people have this problem too, or what was the story?
Yeah, I think the big question that I asked myself when I started SMB Team is, if I were to work backwards from everything that it took to double a business owner's time, double their revenue, double their profits, what would I have to do in order to accomplish that goal for a client who signs up with us? So I had to really think outside the box, to think about, like, okay, there's only so many things that business owners can actually spend their money on.
Right.
There's this concept called wallet share in the small to mid-sized business space, where a small to mid-sized business owner does not have a lot of wallet share in terms of their ability to spend limitlessly on a million and one different things, like a Coca-Cola company would, for example, who's doing billions of dollars of revenue per year. Small business owners don't have that kind of wallet, and that requires us to be very ruthless about the fundamental truths of what it takes to double someone's revenues, profits, or personal free time in less than 12 months. And mathematically, when I looked at this, it's like very simple. It's number of leads they get multiplied by their sales conversion rate on those leads, multiplied by their average transaction value. That is going to ultimately equal their revenue equation, as I call it. So the revenue equation requires help on the sales side. So we actually have to help our clients pick up the phone, because running my agency for the first 2 years, I realized that was not the case. I could spend all the time in the world optimizing their online campaigns, and here I'd be behind my computer celebrating, oh my God, we got you a 20% conversion rate. You're only spending $100 a lead for cases that are worth $5,000. Oh my God. And the client is on the other end going, why are you celebrating? I'm not signing up cases. I'm not signing up clients from your marketing work.
Right.
So that's where I went to the drawing board and I started thinking, okay, well, we have a core value at our company called extreme ownership. And we got this from the book from Jocko Willink, Extreme Ownership. I've had the privilege of interviewing on one of my past talk shows and events. And extreme ownership really struck me. And I asked myself, like, what if we apply extreme ownership to our actual business innovation concept? And instead of pointing the finger at our clients and saying, if you just picked up the phone, then you'd be successful with our marketing. Instead of pointing the finger, let's go innovate a solution around that. Because if they're not picking up their phone and they've been in business for 15 years, then obviously some other vendor hasn't helped them with their sales problem. So we had to step in and innovate that solution so that we could not only generate leads for them, but also convert those leads into sales. And then, like, what if they're charging too little per client, or their average client size is too small. Well, we have firms that we work with and businesses that have a $500 average client value. That is very low in our space. Like, to have a $500 average ticket for a new client, that's going to make it really hard for us to get a return on investment for a client who is that low of an average revenue per client. So instead of complaining about it, saying, "Ah, well, this client doesn't have the right business model," that's where our coaching comes in. We actually help them optimize their business model in their law firm to create a different way of thinking about their average revenue per client, their average profit per client. And then we took it even another step further, which is, how do you ensure the profits of a client, right? Well, we could just be victims to our clients and say, "Oh, we did the marketing for you. We helped do your sales, but you're not profitable. It's on you. Shame on you." A lot of people cancel marketing agencies because they have financial problems. And that's part of the small business market. So are we going to just point fingers at that? Or are we also going to solve that? Well, that's where we then came up with our solution to create the fractional CFO business. And our virtual assistant business was born from us helping with the sales problem that I was talking about. We now have a sales training university. We now have another big problem that our clients have is they're not able to build a self-managing team. They feel like they have to micromanage everything in their business. This is common problems with small business owners, right? And are we going to just accept that as our fate, or are we going to go solve that? And so we help them build a self-managing team through our management coaching, where we help them roll out quarterly boulders. We help them create key performance indicators across their business, use technology to advance their company. So it's really a unique ecosystem, but it really comes from working backwards from what is the outcome the client wants, and let's go innovate on their behalf. Let's not just hang our hat on the fact that we provide one service that they need. Instead, we want to be of service to the client's needs and to their frustrations. That's why I love when clients complain. It's so awesome to me when clients complain, because they're being a free market researcher for us. They're giving us their frustrations. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, fair enough. Oh man, I love that. So you've got a whole ecosystem. I think that's the way to look at it. You've got one piece that's leading to another piece, and it's kind of creating this feedback loop of self-propulsion and profits. I mean, it's incredible, the ecosystem you put together. Let's say that I hired you and we are going through improving my marketing or my company 2x within 12 months. That's what you said that you were able to accomplish. Where would we start with this process? How would we begin to double it in the next year?
Yep. So this depends on where you're currently at. So there's really two scenarios. Scenario one is I already have too many leads. Scenario number two is I don't have enough leads, right? So scenario number one, I already have too many leads. That's typically not a marketing problem, right? That's more around optimizing sales process and perhaps creating a little bit more accountability within your team. So what I notice is most times when someone feels that they're busy all the time, maybe their business is actually in demand and they're getting a lot of inbound leads, that is actually just busyness, right? And to solve busyness, we have to create crystal clarity around the core functions of, first, like I said, their sales process. So we'll look at the sales process and then we'll go, awesome, where are the breaks in the kinks in the links of the chain of your sales process, right? So what percent of leads are turning into a booked appointment? What percent of booked appointments are showing up for their appointment? What percent of shown up appointments are turning into a signed customer, right? And by looking at those areas, we're able to see, okay, is it a break in the chain between people submitting information and then booking an appointment? That's a very different problem. That's more of a marketing automation problem, rather than you're getting a ton of people to attend calls with you, but they're not turning into clients. That's more of a sales scripting problem, objection handling, or maybe you have the wrong person on the phone or in person meeting with these people. So that's actually relatively easy to fix, sales problems. The harder thing to fix when someone's too busy already is the team lack of accountability. Because oftentimes when a company stops growing, it's usually a sign of a stagnant team. And identifying that is probably the most uncomfortable thing we do.
Mhm.
Helping our clients identify who they need to fire. That's never a fun conversation, but there's always a bad apple. If a company is flatlining, either the owner is the bad apple, meaning they've chosen to not grow and they're complaining,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Or there's people actively holding them back from growth in their current organization.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we help run their team through our coaching program, run their team through a analysis where we rate their team members on their core values and their skill alignment with their role, right? And we're able to see who on your team does not belong with you any longer based on their skills and what you need for the role and your core values and whether they match those things. So that's scenario one. Scenario number two is I need more leads. Like that's the more common scenario. A lot of people, I'd say 80% or more people actually do want more leads. So we'll still look at the things I just went through, but we'll prioritize lead generation first, right? The best way to prioritize lead generation, and nobody does this, is look at what's already signing up clients, right?
It's already working instead of the new shiny object that's around the corner, right? It seems like it would
Exactly.
be self-explanatory, but as
Yeah, it's
entrepreneurs,
not.
especially, we're always chasing the new thing, right? But
Yep.
what you're saying is to go for what's already working and to
What's
leverage,
already working?
multiply that. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so important. What is signing up cases or
Yeah.
clients for you? And let's do more of that, right?
Yeah.
Then we can work backwards from that. We have this process where we're able to run all of our clients signed clients from the last 12 months, and we're able to cross-reference that to call tracking data. And we're able to say, hey, these keywords, these
Mm.
device types, these household income brackets, and these location zip codes, these produced X% of your signed cases. So our demographic filtering suggestions are this, our mobile filtering suggestions are this, our keyword selection suggestions are this. So then at the marriage of where you're seeing an ROI and the right targeting, that's what shades down what we see cost per signed client, which is the ultimate holy grail metric. How small of a price can you pay to sign up, to get a client to sign up with you, right? Firm A, business A, who spends double the amount to sign up a client for the same value is going to be half as profitable as the business that's spending half to acquire that same client. So it's an immediate profit optimizer, but it also allows you to pour fuel on the fire and really scale up your marketing when you find something that is cheap to acquire new clients within.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. Exactly, dude. Because, well, let's say that I'm running a company and I don't have that data looking backwards, right? So because you're
Yep.
talking about having extensive data, being able to look at all the points within and say, okay, so this worked, this didn't work, what worked, and how can we scale it up? But what if I
Yep.
don't have that data looking back? Let's say that I'm in scenario two where I have a lead problem.
Yep.
Where do we start in terms of starting to amplify and double my revenue over the next 12 months if we don't have that data looking backwards? Where do we begin?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the first place I always like to start is keyword research, just to see what is being typed in your market, right? So if you don't have data, first party data is what you're talking about,
Right. Yeah.
then you have to seek third party data. You have to seek data from other sources, right? And because Google tracks every single search that people, type in every single day in mass through the Google Keyword Planner, we're able to type in different keyword variations and actually see, okay, you told me your specialty is X. There is this many different variations of keywords for this specialty. And it seems like this one's the most popular. And it seems like these three of your competitors are showing up a lot for this keyword group, right? So we recommend testing this keyword group, right? Another thing that's working really well right now is for local businesses is local services ads on Google. But that depends on whether your niche actually has that. For lawyers, they have that, home services. They're just rolling it out in some medical verticals. Um, so starting with demand side marketing is always my
Yes.
recommendation, which is
Mm.
Google first. If we can't do Google, right? Meaning, let's say it's some weird B2B niche. There's not a lot of demand for it. Then we have to go to what I call pseudo awareness marketing, which is where you're getting in front of people when they're not searching for you. Unlike Google, you're getting in front of people when they're actively in demand for you. Now we got to find a strategy to get in front of your target buyers,
Mm.
right? And that could just be direct outbound messaging. That could literally just be, scraping a list from LinkedIn, and direct messaging the people that you want to sell to, right? That's usually not what lawyers do, but there are other verticals that depend on that, like marketing agencies, for example, who don't have a lot of budget. That's how I started my business, doing
Yeah,
outbound.
me too. Me too. With LinkedIn, exactly,
Yep.
right? With the
Yep.
automation tools, we actually use AI for it now, but we have the same thing, right? You scrape LinkedIn, you can do cold email, combine that
Yep.
with the direct outreach with them, and then you can also do that for the clients, which is
Hmm.
one of the things that we do with our agency. Now we don't
Yep.
have the infrastructure that you have. I mean, it sounds like you're able to give somebody everything that they need without them having to go anywhere else, right? So what you're saying is you would start with, well, first of all, finding third-party data if you don't have it on your own. And what tools would you use to go about finding this data? And then we'll go into the
Yeah.
next step, what you do with the data.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the third party data side, like you have, SEMrush, you have
Yeah.
SpyFu, you have the Google Keyword Planner. So those are good places to start from a demand perspective.
Yeah.
From and I call that demand marketing because again, you're getting in front of people who are in demand for you. Awareness marketing is what I label as when you're making people aware of you when they're not in demand of you. So that's why I'm segmenting those two things. So reactive marketing, proactive marketing. On the proactive marketing side, a great place to start is the Facebook ads library and to just look at different competitors of yours and what ads they're running on Facebook, right?
Right. Yeah.
And see how long they've been running those ads and analyze their messaging on those ads, right? Um, Maybe you also, in addition to that, you want to start looking at direct emails that you received and
Yes.
analyze what direct emails got your attention.
Yeah.
What are some things that you could do yourself, right? So I actually like doing email list scraping first, because the quality of your list determines the quality of almost all of your marketing efforts. It's the same thing on Google. The quality of your targeting will determine 80% of your success in most cases. So if you have a bad list, chances are you could do all this outreach, you're not going to get a return on investment. So finding that list is key. So let's say someone is selling a course to real estate agents. That's the simplest freaking thing ever. You could find every
Yeah.
person labeled as a real estate agent on LinkedIn in one afternoon, right? So not everyone has an identifiable market like that. For
Right.
example, if you're
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Dean Jackson talks about how there's invisible leads, invisible leads. Visible leads would be somebody like a chiropractor who you can find a list of very easily, but an
Yep.
invisible lead is somebody who is you're not able to find them by search criteria. So you've got to give something to
Yep.
them, namely a lead magnet of some sort that gets them to raise
Yep.
their hand and say, "Yes, I'm your type of individual." Get them on your list, and then that's when you can start selling them. But it's
Yeah.
difficult as all hell to find these people because they're not. You can't find lists of them for the cold
Yep.
outreach to begin with, right?
Yep. So that's where you get to start. That's why that middle is probably one of the most profitable is finding that middle ground where you can create targeting assumptions behind that invisible client
Yes.
or demand, right? So
Yeah.
for example, if you're targeting, let's say that you're a divorce lawyer, for example. Well, I can't go and search LinkedIn for everyone who's considering divorce, but I can on Facebook, I can see who's listed as in a relationship and it says it's complicated as the
Yeah.
relationship status,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I can target people if I'm an immigration lawyer who are expats on Facebook. I can target people based on the associations that they're a part of, right? Which may indirectly, uh, you know, identify a need that they may be having. Another awesome thing is YouTube because YouTube allows you to basically do keyword retargeting, which you can't do on Facebook. I can't show an ad to someone on Facebook based on what they're typing in on Google, but because Google owns YouTube, I can show an ad to someone on YouTube, the second highest
Mm,
traffic website in the world. I can show a awareness-based ad interrupting them, right, through the pre-roll based on what they're typing in.
yeah.
So I can do keyword targeting. I can upload a list of every single
Mm,
competitor's URL to someone, and I can show YouTube ad to everyone who's visited their
yeah.
competitor's URL, right? So
Right.
there's limitless options, but in order to get a return on investment from this, you got to be really good at um, direct sales, call it maybe copywriting slash VSL creation,
Yeah.
because most people don't get an ROI from YouTube. They can set up all the targeting in the world, but getting someone to take action off of YouTube is way harder than it is on Facebook. That's why our conversion rates and quality, uh, I'd say return on investment, let's say that, is a lot better on Facebook. And we market to lawyers,
Mm.
and our return on investment is way better on Facebook than it is on YouTube for 3 years, and we spend, I don't even know, $5.5 million a year on marketing. So for
Wow.
ourselves.
Mm.
So it's huge.
Yeah, see, we're talking about is psychographics versus demographics. The psychographics are the exactly what you're talking about.
Yep.
The the parts of the psyche that would indicate that they would be interested in buying this particular thing, but they're not
Mhm.
overtly obvious or available online to be purchased as a list. One of the ways
Yep.
that I like to look at psychographic marketing is through joint ventures and strategic partnerships. You can
Yep.
think about your service, product, whatever you're selling, and you think, okay, so what is somebody who's buying this product? And I got this from Jay Abraham. What are they buying exactly before they buy my product? What are they
Yep.
buying as they buy my product? And what are they buying after it? And these open up the strategic partnership venues or in avenues that you can say, hey, look at these people already have access to my target audience. You can get in touch
Yep.
with them, so form some sort of a joint venture. And now you don't have to do the cold outreach to the individuals without having a direct
Yep.
way I mean, what you said though, man, the search criteria by somebody searching for something in Google and then showing them a YouTube ad because it's the same platform, but a lot of people don't know that. That's what people think. Okay, wow, this is like this ad is it's almost like it's reading my mind. They don't understand
Yep.
how that keyword that they typed in Google is generating the ads that they're seeing on YouTube.
Yep.
It's brilliant, dude. Yeah, I love that.
And cross channel, you can do cross channel retargeting. So, like, for example,
Yes.
if I do a keyword targeted YouTube ad and someone clicks that ad and goes to my landing page, I can pixel them.
You cookie
And
them and
now I
then
can show
yeah.
them a retargeting ad on Facebook. So now I've taken demand based targeting,
Hmm.
right? And I brought that to a non demand platform like Facebook, which I think is so smart. And you can do the same thing on LinkedIn. You can
Yeah.
find your identifiable list, even though your cost per conversion is usually going to be higher on ads with LinkedIn, generally speaking. Now, there's way better methods on LinkedIn, as I know you know. There's way better methods on LinkedIn to get a low cost per booked appointment outside of LinkedIn ads. But if you wanted to get mass numbers on LinkedIn, you can get in front of probably the most qualified market on LinkedIn if you're B2B,
Yeah.
and then
Definitely.
pixel them and then show retargeting ads to them on Facebook. Same thing I'm talking about from LinkedIn to Facebook, as I just said, from YouTube to Facebook. But
Right.
people spend more time, I believe, on Facebook. So getting a
True.
big part of your budget on
Generally.
Facebook
Yeah.
is a very important thing, but getting the right in front of the right traffic is the harder part.
Yeah, so you just tapped into something amazing because on LinkedIn, I think the stat is like 19.3% more money is spent on LinkedIn or people that are on LinkedIn as opposed to the average user on Facebook. So you can find the
Yep.
individual on LinkedIn if you can, find them on LinkedIn, cookie them, and then just blast your ads all over the
Yep.
internet wherever they're seeing so they start to see you everywhere. But you're
Yep.
you're finding the individuals based on where the buyers are most likely to be, and then propagating your ads all over the internet to those individuals. Yeah,
Yep.
it's brilliant, man. I love the cross channel that you've got going on. One
Yeah.
objection would be for a new individual that's looking to get into this. Well, hell, man, this costs a lot of freaking money. How the hell are we
Yeah.
gonna? How do we work our budget to start running ads to the plethora of different options, right? What do you say to
Yeah.
that person who says that, man, I don't have the capital for this. This sounds insane. I mean, it sounds like it
Yeah.
would work, but it sounds expensive as all hell. What do you say to that
Yeah.
person?
To someone who says, I don't have the budget for something, I would say, suck it up. And
Okay,
what
okay,
what
head
what is
on.
your vision, right? So like, when I started my company, I had no money in my bank account, and now we're over 100 full-time employees. So like, you know, you don't ever have the money. There's a reason that over 80% of millionaires are self-made and 80% of billionaires as well. This statistic shows what does self-made actually mean. Self-made means they made it themselves. They didn't inherit wealth, right? So how do you actually trade your skills for additional resources from the marketplace? That's where you got to get good at what I call it your skills and your sales skills, right? So your skills are your delivery skills, the thing that you actually provide to the market that's valuable. So when I started my company, I was really good at Google Ads. Actually, scratch that. I wasn't really good at Google Ads. I got good at
Right.
Google Ads. I
Yeah.
sharpened my skills so that when I sat in front of a client, my sales skills, where I would transfer my skills to a prospect, right, and show them, hey, I can help you with your business, they actually made sense to the business owner. And they went, wow, if I work with this kid, I was 20, 26 when I started SMB team. If I work with this kid, I'm going to make some money and grow my business. And that's how I got all my first clients, by showcasing the skills that I had built around Google Ads, right? So if you're not making the money that you want to make, get more skilled or sell yourself better, right? Because the money is there. There's limitless amounts of money in the economy right now, like trillions of dollars out there right now. If it's not in your hands, that only shows me that there's something you're not giving to the marketplace.
Mm.
So when I say suck it up, I say that from a place of love. Go give more to the marketplace and
Mm.
go sell more to the marketplace, and you will get the money that you need. And there's never the right time to spend money on marketing. There will never be a sacred separate bank account that's sitting there. It's like, okay, now's the day. I have hundreds of thousands of dollars stashed up. Bullshit. When you start spending money on marketing, you're going to go broke. You're going to run out of money. You're going to make mistakes. Everything you do is not going to work for the first year or 2 years or even 3 years. And entrepreneurs are basically the 1% of people who don't give up after multiple years of failure,
Yeah.
because they don't look at it as failure. They look at it as split testing and optimization. They look at it as marketplace feedback, right? If you're so sold on your vision, right? And your vision is to do $10 million a year in revenue, let's say, and you have to spend 20% of that 10 million to get there. Figure it out. Otherwise, abandon your vision. I mean, the fastest growing companies in the world are spending 20% of their gross revenues on marketing. The companies that
Mm.
speedboat past the average company are those that spend to their future revenue projections, not their current revenues.
Yeah.
If you
Right.
believe you're going here, then you have to spend time and money right now as though going there is real, right? So I've been infected
Mm.
with delusion for, gosh, 6 years. So my recommendation there is look at your vision, find out what it's going to cost to get to your vision, and pay the price as fast as you possibly can.
And stay focused, right? Because it's so easy, like we were talking about with chasing shiny
Yeah,
objects, so easy to say, oh, this is working, so let's try something else over here. You're
yeah,
talking about staying focused on that one vision and not giving up and not changing that direction and changing the
yeah,
trajectory, but moving forward consistently, knowing that.
yep,
And so it comes down to really at the beginning of it, finding that vision, having that plan and sticking to that plan and making pivots as you go to make sure that
yep.
you're on the right track to
So I
get
call it
that vision.
pioneer, audit, systemize. So pioneer, audit,
Yeah, I love that.
systemize.
Yeah.
So pioneer is when you try something new, right? So I go do cold email. right? Or I go do a new Facebook ad strategy. Pioneer, try something new. I audit. I look at this experiment that I just did and I audit it and I go, okay, what worked, what didn't work? Where marketers fail, where I should say most business owners fail, is they can't articulate their failures well enough. So they
Hmm.
just say, oh, that didn't work. The smarter people,
Right.
they go, what part of this didn't work? Because I know Facebook works if it's the third highest traffic website in the world. I know Google works if it's the number one highest traffic website in the world. So it must be my strategy because these are $100 billion market cap companies and people are spending money on ads to facilitate those market caps. They must be working for other people, right? So there's got to be something in here that's working and something that's not working. And then we shave away what's not working, so simple, and we double down on what is working. And then over Pioneer audit, we then get to systemize, right? Systemize is where we then let that thing we experimented on run and we step away from it and we never ever turn it off, right? This is what I call making a platform commitment, right? A
Hmm.
platform commitment to me is I am committed to running marketing on this platform forever, right? So once you figure out something that works on Google, for example, you make a platform commitment and you say, this is now a part of my marketing budget going forward, right? Then you do what's called lead abundance layering, right? You layer on additional lead flows on top of the thing that you
Right.
pioneer, audit, systemize.
Yes.
So
Interesting. Hmm.
the most robust companies, they actually have complete abundance around their lead volume. If any one of these things that they systemized, these scalable lead generation process, if any one of these things die off, no problem. I got 7 others, right? So they have resilience when inevitably something fails, which it will eventually in the future. And there may be a time where you'll have to de-emphasize some of your budget on one platform, but not until you've really, really stuck it out.
Mm. Yeah, what you're talking about is a scientific method, right? You make a theory,
Yep.
you hypothesize, you test,
Mm-hmm.
then you reiterate based on the results of the test. But you bring
Yep.
it to a new level when because you actually painted a picture of a structure for me. You have the 3 pillars, and then you're
Yep.
building, stacking, as you said, or layering on
Yep.
top of that structure that you're
Yep.
building. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so what it comes down to is finding something that works that you can start to have the foundation of the structure to then start to
Yep.
build on top of. And instead of
Yep.
changing the structure, you're talking about staying with the 3 pillars that worked, having that as the foundation, and then to build on top of that with new tests while not shifting to what was already working, right? Which is, I
Yep.
think, a crucial differentiation that a lot of people miss. They'll have something
Yeah.
that works and they say, "Oh, let's try something else over here." You're talking
Yeah.
about having the same thing that works as the foundation, and then having the new tests that you want to do, the ideas that you have, the shiny objects, be
Yep.
layered on top of what's already
Yep.
working instead of replacing it.
And you don't always like, and you keep you brought up shiny object, and it's such an important term to talk about because if you get good at math and you start mathematically looking at the things that you do start getting to work, right? Let's say you're doing LinkedIn messaging, right? And you start booking, 5 appointments a week from it, let's say. Distracted person, shiny object person will go, what else can I do? Right? What's some completely unrelated thing? I got to start doing events. I got to start doing this. I got to do webinars.
Yeah.
I got a smart person who's being resource conscious and conscious of the resources and the
Hmm.
opportunity costs it's going to take to go into this new thing. They'll go, what can I do to get to 15 appointments a week? What are 3 shifts that I can do to get to 15, triple my appointments every week? And usually the answer is right in front of you because I always say there's no competition for focus, right? If you stay focused on one platform, one thing, one business strategy for a long enough period of time, you're going to eventually discover something that nobody else discovered. And it's going to be so nuanced and seem so tiny, and yet it's going to provide this disproportionate return
Hmm. Hmm.
because there's no competition for focus. We're in an opportunity overload period of time right now,
Yeah.
right?
No
And
kidding.
it takes a ton of discipline to micromanage your focus. And what I like to do is I like to tie every decision that I make to my annual financial goals, right? in my company, I say, okay, I know my new MRR sales target is X. I know that my client retention target is Y. If it does not fit into how I'm going to get more new clients or how I'm going to continue at the high retention rates that our company have or up level that even more, then I don't need to focus on it because it doesn't have an impact to the business strategy, right? Otherwise, let's label it as such. It's Bill's fun experiment. It's Bill's distracted experiment, but that
Yeah.
should not be counted in our business strategy. That should be Bill's fun experiment. That should be something I do in my personal time.
See, it's so hard, man, because you're talking about, well, you analyze a campaign, you what I call it is post-mortem. I
Oh
learned
yeah.
this from my mentor. You do a
Yep.
post-mortem on it. You examine the body and you see what happened to kill it or to make it skyrocket or either way.
Yep.
You do the post-mortem, but it's so difficult to realize. And you mentioned it earlier, but you brushed it over so quick. And you said it was easy for you to decide what worked and what didn't within a campaign. But it's hard as
Yeah.
all hell for me, man, because there's so many
Yeah.
different places where the campaign can fail, whether it be
Yep.
I mean, there's it goes macro to micro. There's the campaign itself, and then there's the funnels or the logistics within that campaign, and then it goes
Yeah.
down to the micro of the headlines and the VSLs and the copy or the hooks within the VSLs, and then it's the target audience within the hook within the VSL, and so all of these are
Yep.
places that it could fail. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you're not having success with a campaign, it's so difficult to realize what is not working, what's working. But you said that
Yeah.
you have a process for doing that. How do you look at that, man? How do you find out what's working and what's not in the post-mortem
Yeah.
phase?
So there is, maybe I was a little bit too confident in that. There is no proven process to know what's not working because to your point, there's unlimited variables, right?
Yes.
But I believe this is where the instinct of an entrepreneur
Mm.
has to be trusted. So I know one of the
Mm.
biggest personal development lessons that I've been working on is not depending on books or mentors for every single decision that I make, which is really hard for me because I spend over $500,000 a year, my business partner and I, on coaches, mentors, consulting. So I've read 1,000 business books. I mean, I am a knowledge junkie, and all of the people's names that you named, I believe you mentioned Dean Jackson, he's actually in a mastermind group that I'm a part of with Dan Sullivan. So
Oh,
he's
no
actually in the
kidding.
same
Huh.
room that I'm in. Yeah, but he actually just I think took a hiatus from it recently. Um,
Is that strategic coach?
and yeah, strategic coach. Yep.
Huh.
Um, I'll be at Dan Sullivan's the founder of Strategic Coach. I'll be at his house actually in like 2 months for the free zone workshop that we're going to be at. Um,
No
and
kidding.
I could go down the whole Jay Abraham. I've had multiple one-on-one calls with. I've interviewed him 4 times on my YouTube channel. All the videos are on there. I've done joint ventures with him directly, and all of these things I did around mentors are from a place of insecurity. And yes, I like
Mm.
connecting with really smart people to learn from them, but I realize it's from a place of insecurity because I felt I couldn't trust my own gut because I
Right.
come from a bankrupt family and
Me too.
um, yeah, and lost everything. So you did too. So I don't, I have some problem with trusting my own gut because I have reference experiences that my family did that and they didn't succeed in 2008.
And me too.
So
Yeah, that's exactly when it happened too. Yeah.
wow, that's crazy. So for me, I've seeked mentors and books to find answers to all of my business growth problems. And now I'm getting to a point of entrepreneurship where I'm looking back through a process I call feedback analysis, where I look back at my life in 18-month chunks and I analyze what decisions did I make in this 18-month chunk and which decisions had the biggest positive impact.
Mm.
And yeah, I learned so much from it. I learned how to do webinars from mentors. Um, but the decisions that I made to advance the business were my own decisions. And
Mm.
I realized that when I was optimizing our marketing campaigns, I was doing it from a place of seeking external answers and I wasn't trusting my gut. Had I trust my gut faster, I probably wouldn't have spent so much time in the trial and error mode because I would have been more bold in my decision making. So, how do you get to the root of what's not working in your business, really? Is you got to trust your instinct. I think it's very important to understand gut instinct is, I believe, statistically significant as a decision making process. Why? Because gut instinct is not gut. Okay. It's not just your gut. Okay. It's your entire being. Gut instinct is
Mm,
really your impulse as a human being based on all of your collective experience, everything you've learned from others and through your own life. And it compiles into this moment where you have a gut feeling,
mm,
right?
yeah.
And when you have gut feelings as an entrepreneur, chances are it's right because your entire financial livelihood is wrapped up in this business and all of your experience is tied up in that feeling. You should probably trust the feeling. Now, a gut feeling, I think, is very separate from fear, right? If you
I
mislabel
agree.
gut feeling as, well, I'm scared of that, I don't do it. No, no, no. Fear is the one thing to not trust. Because fear, we have to do the opposit of. We have
Yeah,
to
I
run
agree. Yeah,
towards what we're scared of,
for sure. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which usually we have knowledge of that very deep in our, back of our brains, right? We have knowledge of what we need to do. That's that impulse, that's gut. But then we have resistance, which is procrastination. Well, I need to think about it. I need the money. I need the time. It's not the right thing. Da, 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 da. And trudging through that, as Dan Sullivan says, fear is wetting your pants. Courage is doing what you set out to do with
With
wet
wet
pants.
pants. Yeah, baby. Yeah. So
So
what you're talking
I
about
just
there
think
is
it's so
is
important.
the unconscious versus the conscious, and when you have fear, the way that I look at it is from a Jungian point of view, is fear is one part of you, whereas the gut feeling that you're talking about is the conglomerate, the
Yep.
union, the totality of all of the experiences that you've had stored in your personal unconscious. And then I'd even
Yep.
take it a step farther, that you're also tapping into the collective unconscious, which is the infinite, Napoleon Hill talked about it as the infinite mind, or what have you.
Yeah.
So
Infinite
when you're,
intelligence. Yep.
exactly right. And so you're tapping into all your personal unconscious that you can't
Yep.
cognitively recognize consciously,
Yep.
right? But it's there. And this is what that gut feeling is. And there's
Yep.
even, I think there's research that talks about the microbiome and how it's
Yep.
directly entwined with
Hmm.
well, I guess in this case, the personal unconscious. They say it lives in the gut. So that's why we call it a gut
Yep.
feeling, which is it's so
Yep.
interesting because we didn't know that when we came up with the term gut instinct. But that's
Yep.
exactly my point, is it was a gut
Yep.
instinct to call it a gut instinct. And so we're
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
going meta there. You see what I mean? Um,
Yep. Yep.
it's freaking sweet as hell, man. It's my favorite topic,
Yeah.
is delving into the personal and collective unconscious and how they intertwine together.
Yeah.
So you're saying to trust your instincts. What if somebody doesn't have the eclectic background that you do when it comes to, well, having the experiences that's being sourced from the personal unconscious? Because you're
Yeah.
talking about trusting your gut instinct after years and millions of dollars of mentorship and lots
Yeah.
of pain and struggle and realizing what
Yeah.
worked and what didn't work. What about for somebody who
Yeah.
doesn't have that eclectic background? What would you say to them
Yeah.
to build up their trust in their gut,
It
or
just
what have
comes.
you?
I think it's a great question. I think it just comes down to how committed are you to where you're going.
Yeah.
Where
Mm.
there's a will, there's a way. I mean, the I wasn't through some eclectic background. It wasn't some, yeah, my family went bankrupt and both of my parents, almost committed suicide, and I had a very, very challenging, struggle with anxiety for 10 years, anxiety disorder, and it weighed down my life, but I didn't get many new experiences through that. It was really dull. It wasn't like I was learning about marketing through all that pain. I was learning everything not to do. So it was more
Yeah.
from avoidance and fear than anything else. But when I got clear on my vision, when I read the book Think and Grow Rich, I created my major definite purpose statement. I've recited that statement to myself every single day for 10 years now, along
Wow.
with meditation.
Mhm.
And the whole entire statement by the 31st day of December 2026, blah, blah, blah. I have the whole thing, the self confidence formula memorized. As soon as I got clear on where I wanted to go, I started hammering that into my subconscious mind. Um, you will find a way. If you are not if you're setting your goals to compare yourself to someone else, or you're setting goals just from a place of wanting rather than true burning desire, this will happen by X date, then you're not going to find a way if you're not that clear on your goal. I was lucky enough to be in so much pain that I literally had to get clear on my major definite purpose. I had to, as a survival need. Otherwise, I would have killed myself. I mean, why would I live in that much pain for that long, for 10 years of my life, unless there was something that I saw as a shining light that I could pull myself out? And that was my major definite purpose. So I would recommend everyone read the book Think and Grow Rich, and understand that the secret is in that book, probably over 1,000 times. And I actually just I reread the book recently, and I realized the secret is right in front of us. And because I just read Steve Jobs' biography and Elon's biography, I reread Steve Jobs' biography, and I realized that, when people hear stories of Steve Jobs commanding things into existence, okay, this iPhone is going to be this small. Developers at Apple left because of how crazy his idea was for it to be this small and for it to have a flat screen and only be a touch screen. But he willed it into existence. When Elon built the Gigafactory, or scaled Tesla to 5,000 cars per week when he was trying to hit his initial production goals, he willed it into existence. When you study Andrew Carnegie's history, when you study Christopher Columbus, like, they weren't asking permission for this shit. They were commanding exactly what they wanted, what they saw into existence, and forcing it into reality, right? And that is the secret. The secret is, are you so committed and sold on where you're going, you're willing to stick through adversity, you're willing to have people criticize you, people that you were once close with not talk to you again? Is it that important that you're willing to do whatever it takes to get there? Most people, it's not. Most people, it's, I'll do whatever I can within what's convenient to reach that goal.
Yeah, I mean, we've all seen it, dude. And we've seen it if you look closely at your own experiences. Like, okay, one time I was I was a week away from like really like fucking terrible. I don't even know what would have happened. Like homelessness, like fucking, I don't know. And it wasn't relatively even that long ago. This was it was a terrible experience. Okay, so I went through a 4-year mentorship, and at the end of it, I was fucking dead broke, but I had all of this knowledge that I had accumulated over this time. And so I had reached the point where I was forced with no other choice but to take some serious burning desire, immediate action, or else within a week, if I didn't make $6,000 within a week time with zero plan to start out with, I would have been totally fucking screwed. I had no idea what to
Yeah.
do. But
Mhm.
because of this timeline that was forced upon me, what happened was I got pulled over. I was living out of my car. I got pulled over. My car got towed away because I didn't pay the registration on it. So I was totally fucked. So I was staying at my friend's house, my girlfriend's house, and I was totally screwed, man. Like no car, no place to live, and they said I got to get out of there within a week. They were giving me a week time to get my shit together, and I had no plan. I got out of the mentorship, and I said, okay, so what do I know how to do right now that I can make immediate money with? And even going into it, I said like, okay, 6 grand, 7 days. Like I've never made this much money before in this sort of amount of time. I don't know if I can even do this, but I found a way within that time period. In my journal, I'll never forget it. I was in the forest writing down what the fuck I can do to make some serious money within a very short amount of time. And
Yep.
by the time the 7 days came, I made $8,000. I got an apartment, I got the car back, everything was good. But within a 7 day period, it went from 0 to 100 really fast. And
Yeah.
that's the same thing that we're talking about. I willed it into experience. I did not have an option but to make sure that
Yep.
that worked. And it happened, man. What do you
That's why
think that
plan
is?
Bs are stupid. No, you don't need a
Yeah,
plan
right.
B. Like,
No
I
shit.
ran out of money when I started SMB team. Same exact thing you just said is what happened to me. I ran out of money. I had this bonus check from when I did sales at yellowpages.com. Ran out of money, living on the bonus check and preparing for the first day I was going to sell, when I
Yeah.
started my business.
Yeah.
And I walk into my house or my apartment. I'm living with all these dudes who are also starting businesses at this apartment in Center City, Philadelphia. And I walk in, and my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, looks at me and she's just like, when the hell are you going to sell something? You've been preparing for 8 months.
Dude.
I was like, oh, well, I still got to prepare a little bit more. She was like, pull open your freaking bank account right now. I was like, what? I pulled it open and there was like nothing in it. Like
Yeah.
it was not enough to make rent for the next month. Put it that way.
Yeah.
And I looked at that and I looked at her and I said, I'm going to go sell. And I signed up 8 clients in my first month at $1,500 a month per client. So I went from,
Nice.
what's that, around $15,000 in monthly revenue because I had to.
Yeah.
And do you think all those 8 months of preparation, getting the business set up, was needed? No. I could have sold day one, but I didn't have my back up against the wall.
Yeah.
And because
No
of that,
kidding.
I didn't take action.
Same exact thing here, dude. I know it was preparation. I'm like, I telling my girlfriend, no, it's gonna happen. And she was like, at this point, it was like, dude, you've been talking about this for so long. When is it actually gonna happen? You keep saying that
Yeah.
it's going to happen, but it took to you know, to get to that low of a spot to have no choice, like you, to say, okay, so I gotta fucking go out there and start, getting some money in this bank account. Otherwise, I'm totally
Yeah.
screwed. And yeah, same thing, man. First month, 26 grand. And it was like, yeah. And that's when I started the LinkedIn agency. So it's
Mm.
actually a similar thing that you and I did. It's fascinating, man. It's very, very cool.
It really is.
Yeah, it's no shit, man. What are some of the things that you've learned over your mentorships? What's like if you had to put one or two th things that you've learned from all of these mentorships, these experiences that you've had,
Yeah.
are the top in terms of actually impact on your bank account? What is the
Yeah.
number one or two things that you've learned that have just changed everything that you look back and you couldn't imagine a life without knowing these things?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the first thing that comes to mind is Charles Linden. Charles Linden wrote this program called the Linden Method, and that's what taught me to overcome my anxiety disorder
Mm,
through rewiring my brain. One of the most powerful lessons I think I've ever learned. And that was the first time I ever pulled out my credit card and bought something that was personal development. And that then led to Brendan Burchard. Um, Actually, it went to Brian Tracy,
yeah.
um, who I've had the honor of interviewing 2 times, who's an amazing guy. Um, and that led to Brian Tracy taught me impactful communication. He had this course that was called High Impact Communication. That then opened my mind to I need to, I started really resonating with personal development. So I tried to find a more immersive experience. And that was my first in-person workshop. And that was with Brendan Burchard. He taught me energy. He taught me it was okay to be an energy lunatic because I had always been a very hyper person. Um, he taught me that being bottled with your enthusiasm and being able to take your enthusiasm and channel it into your business goals is one of the most powerful assets ever. So he taught me energy. Um, that then led to Grant Cardone. Grant had a huge impact on me. He mentored me before he blew up, before he had his growth con.
Mm,
I went to his office probably one, two, three, I don't know, probably like 5 or 6 different times. He let me meet with his sales director, his marketing director. Um, but I didn't learn as much from them as I learned from his ability to think big. The 10x rule, I think, was probably the most pivotal thing I learned in business. Because that taught me to set goals that are 10 times bigger than I thought were possible, and then to match that with 10 times the action. Then that led to webinars. So that's when I first had a one-on-one call with Jason Fladlin, who now I'm good friends with. That led to Pete Vargas. That led to Myron Golden, who coached us for multiple years. So that taught us how to do our big virtual events that we do. Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson changed my life. That book is a masterpiece in marketing. That taught me, really tied information marketing together. Eben Pagan taught me a little bit more about information marketing when I wrote my first ebook. And now, as the company has grown, we've actually, now that we're a multiple eight-figure business, like we actually have to get more consultants now. I feel like once you get to $10 million in revenue, that's when you have to start seeking customized solutions,
Mm.
and consultants, right? Which is customized. Whereas up to 10 million is when you benefit a lot more through coaches, mentors, group coaching, and stuff like that. So I am a coaching junkie. That's why I run a coaching business. It's Without coaching, I would not be where I am today. I wouldn't have had the humility, the tactics that I use to scale the company. I would just be winging it. I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I just want to be in a room where everyone is getting smarter. So yeah, I'm scared as hell of being the smartest person in the room, because then that means I stop learning and I'm not challenging myself with who I'm surrounded by.
Mm. Yeah, man. I mean, it's funny you mentioned Jason. Jason's the mentor that I had over those 4 years. And so I was learning webinars, I was learning strategic partnerships. Yeah, one-on-one intimately with Jason Fladlien over those 4 years. Yeah. So it's
Bro,
cool. You gotta,
text him about me.
yeah,
Text him
okay,
about
man. No shit, man. He'll see this video probably, and he'll be interested in it because both of our names are in the title. But dude,
me. Yeah.
yeah, it's very cool, man. I'm trying to think like, what's a question that I should have asked you but didn't ask you? Because you got such an amazing story, man. I'm curious what comes to mind when I ask you that question.
Yeah, I think one of the questions that people don't ask me a lot about is focus, and you did.
Yeah.
You did bring that up around shiny object syndrome. I think whenever I do interviews, people focus on the tactics, but they don't focus on the psychology that makes the tactics work, right?
Yeah.
And I actually think we did focus on that during this interview. And I wish more people would understand that if something is not working, it's on you. There's no external thing that's going to make the thing work. Like if there's 8 billion people on planet Earth and somebody else made it work in either the same industry, on the same advertising platform, same sales strategy, it's you. So I just am screaming from the mountaintops to myself too, because we all get into periods of ego ruts. We
Yeah.
all get into a rut where we start feeling comfortable and things start working well, and we don't want to be too challenged, don't want to rock the boat too much. And I am so scared of ego ruts. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs frustrate me, especially entrepreneurs who are getting started, when they don't take ownership for things. They don't look in the mirror enough. They sugarcoat things. I'm all good. I'm not worried about that. I hate when people say I'm not worried about that. Like if I have 100 employees and I wake up every morning worried, looking around corners, what can take us out of business? If Mark Cuban is working with strategic paranoia every single day, if Andy Grove, arguably one of the greatest CEOs of all time, wrote a book, Only the Paranoid Survive, why aren't you scared? Like,
I'd
you
say
don't
they
need to
are,
prove.
man. I look at what Sigmund Freud said about negation, so I would put brackets around the not. And so if somebody says I'm
Yeah.
not worried about it, it's like their unconscious is screaming, "I'm fucking terrified of it," you
Yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're caught in their ego, they're caught in the structure that we look at the world from, and they're
Yeah.
not able to access that unconscious that's feeding it in, and not looking at that projection and the deeper level of the words and terminologies that they're using. How do you look at ego in marketing, man? How would you define ego? Because you use the word ego. I'm fascinated by this word.
Yeah.
How would you define it?
Yeah. So I define ego as a self-concept that you have a challenge being challenged. So a self-concept that you have a challenge with being challenged, right? So you have a self-concept. Let's say, for example, I'm a great dad. That's a term, that's a phrase. And through our lives, we have phrases that float through our mind, often subconsciously, that define us in a lot of ways, right? That define our actions, our emotional states. I'm a great father, right? Well, that phrase can go through your mind. And if there's ego attached to it, I believe that is where commitment consistency bias comes in, where it's okay, well, I've committed to being a great father. So now I'm going to remain consistent with that, right? And I don't want any conflicting data that could jeopardize this, right? So now my reticular activating system, the part of your brain that controls your focus, will only seek data that supports that quote commitment, that identity commitment, right?
Yes. Mm.
So I'm only alert to things that make me right, right?
Yeah.
And ego creeps in, it takes a seat in your brain, it sits there, and it waits for things that could challenge it, and then it goes whenever data comes up, and it yells at the thing, right? And that yelling comes up as either defensiveness or ejection. You eject yourself from situations that challenge you, or you defend yourself from situations that challenge you, right? And the interesting thing about that is all of those things just create pain for you. While you're rejecting it or you're fleeing from it, you're only causing your own pain, right? This is why I've meditated for 10 years now because I had to. Again, thank God I had anxiety because I literally had to learn meditation. I am very aware of when that voice comes up in my head, and instead of running from it, I try to run towards it and I try
Mm.
to accept that conflicting data. I go, whoa, wait, what if this is not true? What is the truth? And
Mm.
when I think your ego can dissolve when you start seeking the truth about any situation rather than trying to make yourself seem like the truth.
Wow. The truth with a capital T on the because it's
Yeah.
when you're talking about ego dissolution, you're talking about entering the realm of God, and
Yeah.
we can go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, what you just said is absolutely fascinating. I like the way you look at that. Um, we could talk about that for days, man. The depths of which is unparalleled, infinite, beyond ego. Where do you go when you meditate? When you because you say you've been meditating for 10 years, experience do you go for when you have these meditative sessions?
Yeah. So non-resistance.
Ah, hmm.
Non-resistance is what I go for. So not acceptance though, because acceptance is a action. I believe the absence of resistance is what everyone should be seeking in their own spiritual quest, right? Because absence of resistance only tells you what it's not. It doesn't tell you what it is. So if I say, well, when I meditate, I accept all of my thoughts. That's an action. Meditation is about nothingness. It's about not resisting, which means if it's not resistance, it means it's general awareness. So whatever I
Yes,
think, I have
yes.
general awareness of. Whatever I
Mm.
feel, I have general awareness of. But I don't attach labels to it. I don't try to accept anything, right? I smirk at my thoughts like they're a child saying some un incomprehensible, statement that makes no sense at all,
Yeah.
right? Like a little baby crying. Oh, wow, that's interesting.
You take the
Whoa, that
observer
thought's
world.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see how that thought's valuable. And I don't criticize it. I just am curious. And then the thought, I believe the body is the best self-cleansing mechanism ever. The mind is the best self-cleansing
Is the
mechanism ever.
one. Mm.
If you notice a thought that's irrational and you don't resist it, I think what kills us is what's called the second arrow. The second arrow means,
Yeah.
and this is from a ancient thing, When a warrior gets shot with an arrow, the worst way to heal the arrow wound is to shoot a second arrow right where that arrow was shot. That's the worst way to heal the wound. But what do most people do when they have negative thoughts? They shoot second arrows at it. They say, I shouldn't be thinking that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
There must be something wrong with me. As soon as you eliminate or go into a place of non-resistance, I don't resist that negative thought. Therefore, there's no second arrow. And that is the thing that stops the fear cycle.
Mm. The pure observation of the thought rather than the attachment to it. And then that's
Right.
when the ego can start to dissolve and you start to enter the infinite. You say
Yep.
that, which is, I mean, you can't go, yeah. You talk about and we'll wrap this up because I know that we're running out of time, but and talking about time, going back to, it's funny to talk about time after we're talking about the infinite. We kind of constrain it back into the ego here, but you
Yeah.
talk about it's not acceptance because acceptance is an action.
Yeah.
I'm interested in that statement because when I look at
Yeah.
meditation, I'm trying to accept, well, it's not trying, it's just pure acceptance of what is, not
Yep.
fighting it, not being afraid of it, but just
Yep.
accepting what
Yeah.
what I am, beyond ego, beyond
Hmm.
this container, or and not even the,
Yep.
the egoic container. So what do you mean by acceptance is not what you aim for? Because I'm aiming for accepting of
Yeah.
what is,
Yeah.
beyond
And me too.
me.
I think everyone's aiming for that. I think during the moments that you're meditating, there's a spectrum. So look at it like this. Over here, there's resistance. Okay. One side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
In the middle, that's where most people live, by the way. They resist everything that happens in their life. They complain. They don't accept what's happening in their life. And that's why they don't make change.
Yeah.
Then in the middle of the spectrum, there's non-resistance. So there's resistance and non-resistance. Non-resistance means I'm just not resisting this thought anymore. So it's a lack of action, right? And then on this side, there is acceptance, right? So I believe acceptance, it can be a state. If it's a state, then that means you're not taking the action of accepting. So I actually label
Mm.
non-resistance as acceptance. It's a state, but it's more about the fact that you're not trying to accept anything,
Right. Yes.
because the art of trying to accept something then inputs mental labels, right? So for example, let's say you have a negative thought and you try to accept it. Well, now I'm going into a state of activity that's unnatural to my natural processes. And I'm trying to accept this thought. Well, why is this thought okay? How can I turn this thought into a positive? All of that is gaming the mind. I believe true evolution comes when you don't need to game the mind, when you're able to observe everything that's happening with courage, because it takes courage to do that, to not have to
Yeah.
change anything,
It doesn't
right?
ever. No kidding. It takes courage to get to that state. So you're talking
So
about
it's hard.
not swinging over to the trying. I mean, it reminds me of a saying Richard Bandler used to say, which is, you can try to walk through a door, but that means you didn't walk through the door, you know?
Right. Exactly.
So you're talking about swinging from resistance over to trying, but there's a middle state of pure acceptance where it's
Yep.
pure observation, pure consciousness.
Yep. Yeah.
And
It's hard to do. But
yeah,
I believe in a
or easy to
merge of
do,
acceptance. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
or
It is
beyond hard and
easy.
easy.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Hard
think
not to do.
the hardest balance to find, to kind of wrap this up, is how do you find the balance of indomitable will and non-resistance, full acceptance, right?
Right.
That's where these conundrums require you to define your own life, right? Because how do you have this searingly clear path on where you're going with your life and then stay in a meditative state? I think it's all a flow, man. I think there's times you got to be accepting, and there's times you got to burn the ships and go all in on what the hell your goals are, right? And not be accepting, right? But as long as you're the one in control of when you're being accepting and when you're being burn the ships mode, great, you're in control. You're choosing your destiny rather than being a victim to whatever happens.
Mm. I look at it as being out of control. What I wanted to do is pure acceptance without trying to control it, because then the control comes with the dichotomy of the resistance and trying to find acceptance.
Yep.
So it's really a giving up of control, which is terrifying when you
Yeah,
really,
yeah. That's a
you
great
know,
point.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. Bill,
Yeah.
dude, we'll leave it with that, man. I think that's the deepest that we could possibly leave this cliffhanger here. I appreciate you being here, brother. Seriously, we went to some deep ass conversations today, and I appreciate you for
Yeah.
that, man. Thank you.
No, I appreciate your questions, man, a lot. So, yeah, man, if there's ever a chance to collaborate on anything again, let me know. Just shoot me an email and really appreciate the time.
My pleasure, man. Seriously, and thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your eclectic wisdom with us and your heart-throbbing story that brought you to where you are right now. So, man, thank you so much, dude. And we'll keep in touch, okay?
All right, man. Yeah, text Jason about me. Okay.
Okay, man. Sounds good.
All right.
All right, dude.
All right.